Kiss My Chaos. Taking stories of trauma into triumph while living life in the middle and everything in between. All views are expressed solely of the host, guests, and for entertainment purposes only. You don't like it? Well, you can kiss our chaos. Here are your hosts, Abigail Dark and D.T. Hudson.
Hey, Abby.
Hi, Dan.
Do you like balloons?
Do I like balloons? Pennywise like balloons.
Pennywise like balloons. And if Pennywise was throwing a party, there's only one place for Pennywise to call, and that's Party Ray Balloon Company. I will tell you what, the Party Ray Balloon Company is a brand new balloon and garland decor company, proudly serving Fargo, North Dakota, and guess what? The surrounding area, all the way to Grand Forks, from what I understand. And they specialize creating vibrant, customizable balloon designs that meet your celebration's needs. Wow. Ooh. You didn't even know that. You do events.
I do events, yeah. I mean, I don't think it even needs to be a large event. Just like a cool, celebration like graduations, baby showers. Or you know what? Maybe you can just celebrate yourself for no reason at all, and she can come decorate your hallway.
Absolutely, she would. So if you're looking for garland, or party balloons, or party balloon arrangements, it's partyrayballoonco.com. Partyrayballoonco.com. Give Amanda a little inquiry there, and she'll set you up.
Awesome.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back. You've been busy. You got an event coming up.
I have lots of things going on. Too many things, probably.
You always have lots of things.
I do. I have the Haunted Harvest Market Festival coming up on September 28th at TAC Music Venue in Dilworth. We're doing probably like one of the biggest Halloween parties this area has ever seen, because I don't do anything small. We all know this.
She does nothing small.
Nope. So that'll be here sooner than later. So.
What is this tea you gave me?
It is Hot Cinnamon Sunset from Harney and Sons.
Angel kissing my throat right now. It's wonderful.
Well, and I snuck some healthy protein drink in there for you.
Mm-hmm. So if I pass out and it's a 911 call for Dan.
No, I didn't poison you. I mean, protein's good for you. It'll help you.
Yeah, it is. Well, I tell you what, we're lucky. We're very, very lucky. We're very, very fortunate, because I got one of my homies here today.
Yay.
Yeah, I got stories, but we won't talk about them publicly.
We're going to paint them in a nice light today. Yes.
In all seriousness, we have Scott Geiselhart with us today, and Scott has an amazing, touching story that will change and does change people's lives. And he goes all over the United States telling his story boldly and courageously, because it's not an easy story to listen to, but the best part of the story is the triumph in the end. And I don't want to give it any away at all. I mean, but Scott's a fireman, me being a cop there, and Scott can attest to this. We kind of rib each other a little bit, just a little bit every now and then, but it's all in good fun, because we're all on the same team in the end. For the most part.
It's probably like inside jokes that I wouldn't understand anyway. It's that
your brother's a cop.
First responder jargon. That doesn't mean I understand it.
Good point. You wouldn't understand, Abby.
Exactly. That's what he said. You wouldn't understand. I'm like, well, I don't. So here I am.
Well, Scott Geiselhart, welcome to Kiss My Chaos. This is exciting for me. You're looking dapper.
Thank you.
I wish we had a video. I really do.
Well, we can post a picture.
Well, we could, couldn't we? We can do that afterwards.
Yeah.
Scott, tell us a little bit about where you grew up, where you came from, and what got you into the line of first respondering.
Yes, I grew up in Detroit Lakes, and my parents owned a motel on a mile-long beach. And so my childhood was pretty entertaining growing up in Detroit Lakes in the 80s and 90s. And if you're not familiar with that, back in the 80s, Penthouse magazine rated Detroit Lakes the third best place to get lucky on the 4th of July.
I remember this. I was not of
best.
age.
Where's the first best?
Not there, but
I think it was Miami or something.
Yeah, we'll take number 3. That's okay. That's pretty good.
Got an education.
Yeah, exactly.
I bet. So your parents owned the motel. Did you work at the motel?
Yes. Yeah. I started out emptying garbage cans, worked my way up to the making the beds, and then got the lucky job of cleaning toilets.
That sounds awesome. a beginning and a progression throughout your hotel career. So you've been in the local area your whole life. I mean, you probably know everybody then.
Well, I don't know if I know everybody, but yeah, I've been in the Detroit Lakes, Frazee area
Sure.
50 years, and then I moved to Fargo about 6 or 7 years ago.
Gotcha. Well, you have a compelling story, and I had the opportunity to listen to one of your sessions in Detroit Lakes that was done at one of the local nursing homes, and there weren't very many dry eyes, and there were a lot of people that came up to you afterwards because either they know somebody or they can relate to your story. I guess maybe the best way is if you wish or if you want to start telling your story or how you got to why you're doing today. He's got a he does something called seeing in color, and I think it's brilliant. Seeing in color again, going from black and white into seeing in color again. And I can relate with that, and I think a lot of the people that listen to this will be able to relate with that as well. What does all that mean?
Well, I was a firefighter for 24 years. But believe it or not, when I graduated from high school, I wanted to be a police officer. Yeah. I went to Alexandria and they accepted me, but for some reason I decided I didn't want to because to be honest with you, I didn't think I had the temper for it, the patience. So I went into auto mechanics, and in 1994 I moved to Frazee. And about 2 days after moving to Frazee, one of the salespersons walked up to me and handed me an application for the fire department. And I never thought about being on the fire department, but I filled it out and handed it back to him. And a couple days later, he came back and said, "Congratulations, you're on the fire department."
That's awesome.
Volunteer fire department, small town, but
Sure.
Yeah, it was exciting because I got to know a lot of people really fast in town.
Yeah, absolutely. And the small town fire department is kind of like a family. It's not full time, I'm assuming, and it's on call, and it takes a dedicated community to make it work, fundraising and everything like that. So good on you for that. So you're at the fire department. That's a long time to be at the fire department. What was your experiences there?
When I started out, we didn't have the jaws of life, and as a mechanic, and we had some other mechanics on the department, and it was 15 minutes before Detroit Lakes got there because they were 10 minutes out or 10 miles out. So it was kind of a helpless feeling, waiting for the jaws of life to get there. So we did some training, and we bought a set of jaws, and we started doing auto extrication.
Mm-hmm.
We trained really hard, and then we got pretty good at it, and we started doing some cutting, and we also got the ice water rescue suits, and for whatever reason, we got a whole bunch of bad calls right back to back, middle of the night, a lot of them in the middle of the night, and you get up out of bed, race down to the fire station, and you're not even awake half the time,
Right.
And you get down there and you get out to the scenes, and you're seeing all this ugly stuff. And it was odd how when I got in the department, I said, okay, this stuff's not going to affect me. I'm not causing it, so I'm not going to let it get to me. And it started to get to me.
Okay. In what kind of things were you having nightmares, or was it keeping you up, or a multitude of things?
Yeah, I started having a lot of nightmares, drinking a lot. I mean, I used to drink a lot anyways, but I started to go to the bar a lot, and instead of going home, I had 2 sons and a girlfriend at home, and instead of going home and being with them, it seemed like I would rather be at the bar and away from them. And there was an anger issue too. I started to get this anger, and I didn't understand where it was coming from. And actually, it was really frustrating because I would get angry and I couldn't control it. So that made me even angrier. It was like,
right,
God, I
disappointing yourself a little bit, or not knowing what's going on, so you can prevent it.
Yeah.
Was it certain things that you think that like triggered your anger, or is it hard to even know that?
It's hard to even say. I mean, sometimes it was, sometimes it just built up. I mean, I was really nice to the customers and everybody around me, but when I got home, it's like I took it out on the 3 people I loved the most.
Right.
And that really was frustrating.
Right. Absolutely. I think there's a lot of people that can relate to that. Abby tells a story about her kitchen drawers, and
We've heard that. Yeah.
I know, but it's it's not about the drawer, you know,
No.
and that's what, in hindsight, looking back, you can say, you know, it had nothing to do with A, B, C, and D. It had everything to do with E.
And I think, you know, like when you're growing up and the firefighters come and they show you like, hey, here's the shiny red truck and here's all the shiny things. And, you know, of course, firefighters are put in this amazing, wonderful light. You know, like we only think like, hey, you know, they're saving people and saving this and that. Like we kind of forget, you know, like with our law enforcement and with firefighting, there's that dark side that you guys see that is shielded from the rest of the world. We don't hear about it because you guys don't talk about it, and we don't know exactly what goes on behind the scenes. And I think that that's great that you're beginning to tell us these stories about that. And you had said that, you know, that anger was coming in. How did you work through that?
I didn't.
Okay.
I just decided to stay away from my family. Started working longer hours, hanging out at the bar. It hurt to yell at them. I mean, it hurt. It was like I was third party a lot of times, and I was trying to pull myself out of the situation, and I'd run. I'd get out of the house, and I'd unfortunately start threatening suicide. And the thing is, I didn't put two and two together right away that it was the fire service. I thought I was going crazy. I thought I had a split personality, a Jekyll and Hyde, and that was the scary part. You know, I had some kind of a mental health issue, but I didn't know anything about mental health. So, I mean, the unknown was the biggest part of it that hurt.
Did the fire department ever offer anything as far as like mental health initiative or, you know, something, or, you know, like, you know how sometimes they're like, hey, you know, we have this seminar or something that you could go to if you're dealing with, you know, any form of like bad mental health or PTSD. Did they ever offer anything like that?
Well, that's the interesting part. I became a captain, and I became assistant chief pretty quick. So I was up in the higher part of it, and I never heard anything about mental health. They did, a lot of departments had debriefings after the bad calls. We didn't. I mean, I remember one where we had, you know, the sheriff come in and he did the debriefing, and now with what I know now, you know, it wasn't the correct way of doing it, you know, but we didn't know. I mean, we didn't talk about mental health. Suck it up. You know, if you can't handle it, maybe it's time for you to go find something else to do.
Sure.
It felt like a weakness if you admitted it.
100%. And, you know, I'm so glad you said that, because that was the norm. Nobody knew. And it's hard to point a finger at anyone if nobody knows. Mm-hmm. And there's a generational thing that I noticed in law enforcement where you open your mouth like that, you will be ostracized and punished.
Chastised by the rest of the department. Yeah.
Right. So, but regardless of all of that, just the availability of it, it just wasn't something anyone knew. Even when I got back from my deployment, I mean, I had never heard of it. It was just another acronym. So that's really interesting. But as a volunteer firefighter, you're also living another life trying to run a business. Can you tell us a little bit about your business?
Yes. I was an auto repair. I actually got into the auto repair business. At first, I was leasing a shop, which was nicely located across the street from the bar. So that made it really easy for me to go across and drink every night. And I'd go home and my kids would be sleeping. And I mean, it hurt because I'd watch them and I'd look at them and while they're sleeping. It's like, why can't I be around them when they're awake? And I just didn't understand what was going on in my life. But I built a brand new shop in 2010. And this shop was a mansion. I mean, it was a shop of my dreams, air conditioned, heated floor. I built it with my plans, and it was awesome. I mean, everything was going great, you know. And if you looked from the outside, I mean, I had a nice house, nice shop. I was assistant chief. I was in the DL Shrine Club, president of Sportsman Club. I was doing all this stuff at one time, and then, you know, I was even part of the city council for a couple of years. So, and the business was great. I had a ton of customers, and from the outside, I looked like I was just, you know, maybe a little stressed out because I was doing all this stuff, but I was functioning. You know, the sad part about it, when that was happening, when I built that shop, I was also playing around with meth. Mm-hmm. And I started to do some meth with some friends, and I started to do more meth because I could stay awake and work longer hours. So, and the benefit of that was no nightmares because I didn't sleep.
Right.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
It was a very unhealthy coping skill. I didn't even know what coping skills was, and here I am using bad ones.
Of course. Yep.
Well, it's a path. It's a path. Unfortunately, a lot of people take. I think the awesome thing is you're sitting across this table from Abby and I right now, and we're having this conversation because this is the pure definition to me of courage and selflessness.
Absolutely.
To be able to share a story like Scott is sharing to help other people. If you can't invest in your fellow human, who can you invest in? And that's exactly what he's doing. So that's a very commendable. I know you're a humble guy, but I also know what you do is incredibly effective because people come up to you all the time. And so you're covering up basically whatever's going on with either alcohol and or narcotics at the time. Did it progress? Did it digress? What happened?
Oh, it got just out of control because you see a lot of the crosses alongside the road.
Yes.
And this is a small town, and a lot of small town first responders can understand what I'm going to say. That when we go on these calls, a lot of times it's people we know.
Yeah.
It might even be a relative of somebody on the fire department or a neighbor. You know, and how do you cut somebody out of a car that's dying and you know them, or you help some remove a body from a car, and later on you're walking down the street and here comes the parents of the kid that you were the last one to be with while he was alive, and you don't know what to say. I start shaking and sweating. When I seen those crosses on the side of the road, they were failures. I failed. I was supposed to be able to save their life. I was trained to do that. I had all the equipment I needed, and I couldn't. I mean, it seemed like we just had that bad streak, and a lot of them, and even the ice water rescues, we couldn't save them. And it's like, they told us if we bring them up within an hour, we could save them. And we're bringing them out of the water in 10 minutes, reviving them, and they were passing. And it's like, this isn't fair.
I think it's good for everyone to know this area that Scott's describing has thousands of lakes. And when it gets cold, they ice over. And yes, we do go out there and stand on the ice. We fish through the ice. We snowmobile. We drive on the ice. And unfortunately, sometimes the ice isn't strong enough. So when he's talking about some of these ice water rescues, it could be an accident, someone going into a pond, or it could be an ice fishing incident. And people go through the ice every year. And it's horrible because the clock is literally ticking at that point.
Scary. That's why I don't do it. The first time I walked out on the ice and I heard all that cracking, I mean, I'm not that fat, but still, like, you know when you're going out there and it's like quiet and it's like, oh, it's so pretty. And then you like walk on the ice and you're.
Thought it was your hip.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm like, whoop, back it up.
It has a unique sound, but
You don't want to go for a walk on the ice with me.
Yeah. No, after hearing your stories, I know.
I weigh a few pounds more. So
oh, come on.
But I do think it's really interesting, like with you talking about meth, we all think of it, like that's like the granddaddy in the drug world, is the meth thing. And when us normies, when we talk about drugs or meth or things like that, we always think of that like person, super cracked out on the side of the road. We don't think of people that are city council members, that are your chief of the fire department, or, it's non-discriminatory. Like it can find anybody at the right time. Absolutely. And you can have that and go down that road. And so understanding that drugs are just not for those kinds of people, like other people do get these habits.
Yeah. And the thing I found out is I don't know too many addicts that don't have a mental health, something going on with their mental health. And that's why they reach out to to numb themselves or to find an escape. And, I think we got to focus especially with treatments for addiction, that the mental health thing's hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And that's what I found out later. But
we find that with criminals. We find that with, it's criminal to do that. But what I'm talking about doing criminal acts to support habits, I guess is what I'm getting at. So going through your presentation, unfortunately for a lot of people, there's a rock bottom. Well, you think there's a rock bottom, and then it goes a little bit lower sometimes even yet. And it's entirely up to you if you want to get into it, Scott. I mean, if you need to take breaks, whatever you want to do, it would let you run with it any way you want.
Yeah. Basically, I was a functioning meth head. I was running a shop, assistant chief on the fire department. I had 322 shells in my little pocket on my jeans, and they were full of meth. Took the gunpowder out, filled them with meth, crushed meth, and put the lead back on because it got to the point where I had to have a line of meth an hour because I got wore out or I'd start to sleep. And closing my eyes meant seeing my kids in the car accidents because I replaced the victims with my children.
Sure.
And they were screaming, Daddy, help us. And I couldn't get the jaws of life working, or I'd be paralyzed and they'd be dying in front of me or drowning or on fire. And, the fires are another part of it that you smell and see that stuff. It's more than just the visuals. It's a hearing, the hearing the parents or the loved ones around screaming. You'll never forget something like that. And, even going by a playground and I'd hear some kids start screaming on the playground having fun, it would bring me back sometimes to the screams. But yeah, I ended up to where I just wanted to die and I wanted to use the meth. I figured the meth was the best way to do it. I did walk around on some fire scenes with the burnt out basements. We did not have too many that we had a burnt out basement on. We normally we saved them.
Right.
But I remember walking, one of the basements and looking around and looking to see where the other firefighters were. Because I was suicidal and I was thinking, man, if I could make this look like an accident and I just fall in and I'll be dead before I, even get a breath or two. And they'll be far enough away that they won't jump in after me and risk them. Or I'd go into house fires and look for a hole in the floor. I mean, it sounds horrible, but I wanted to die a hero. I was looking at ways to die without making it look like suicide.
Sure.
And after a while, I just decided I'm going to start doing as much meth as I can, and I'm never going to go to sleep because I'm not going to shut my eyes and see my kids dying in front of me anymore. So I was doing a line of meth an hour, and at least. And I went from assistant chief down to captain, down to yellow helmet, down to making not many of the fire calls when I used to make most of them, if not almost all of them. And I changed. I started isolating. I stayed at the shop all the time, ran my shop on surveillance cameras, had it all blacked out so nobody could tell I was even in there working all night long, and just started pumping the meth down. And I was trying to have a stroke or trying to die, but somehow I stayed alive until 2014. And in July of 2014, I went over and back it up a little bit. In 2012, my girlfriend left, and she took the kids with. So I had an empty house. So just like the crosses on the side of the road, my house was a failure. It was empty. I didn't have my family there anymore, and they didn't really want to spend too much time around me. And, it was just a reminder. So I stayed down at the shop almost all the time. And then in July of 2014, I went and visited them. I'd visit them quite a bit, but I went over their apartment and visited them, and the same thing happened. I just blew up. I just came off my rails and started yelling at them. And I never physically hurt my girlfriend or my children, but the verbal abuse, I was a monster. I mean, I was screaming things and threatening suicide and threatening to burn the house down and the shop. And, for a young kid to hear that and to see their dad yelling in a rage, it affected him a lot. And this day I did the same thing. But when I left, I said, that's enough. I'm out of control. And I drove down to the shop, and a lot of things were going through my mind. I mean, I was thinking about taking other people out, and I was homicidal. And I got down to the shop, and I told myself, I can't do that. My kids have to live in this town, and that wouldn't be fair at all. So I went into my my office and sat down at my desk, reached in the drawer and pulled out my .44 Magnum revolver and put it to my head, and I pulled the trigger, and it clicked. And this gun does not have a safety. It's an old school Smith & Wesson, and it was a weapon I was going to use to finish it. I mean, it was not going to fail, but it clicked, and it scared the crap out of me. I threw the gun down on the desk, and I literally climbed the desk behind me. And I was looking down at the floor thinking, wow, I thought everything would be black, and I'm looking for my body, and it didn't make any sense. And I got down and I unloaded the gun, and I looked at the primers on the rounds, and there wasn't a dimple on any of the primers, and yet it clicked. So my mind was just racing. It's like, what's going on? Is this another life I'm in, or what's
Right.
Why did I do that? And the sad thing about it is I had $1 million worth of life insurance sitting underneath plastic on my desk for a very long time because I knew it was going to be really quick when I did it. And I just thought to myself, my God, I thought I could give $1 million to my kids, and I was going to make everything better to get me out of the way. And I felt horrible. And I sat down at my desk and I started typing on my keyboard, and I typed in anger, nightmares, flashbacks, and drugs. And PTSD filled the screen up. And I couldn't believe it. I started laughing because I've never been in the military. I thought PTSD was a military thing. I opened up the Mayo site, and right there, first page, high risk first responders and veterans. And I'm like, holy crap. At that time, I was a firefighter for 18 years. I only heard PTSD once in the fire service, and that was a trainer. When he was leaving the front of the room, he said, oh, by the way, guys, watch out for PTSD. I remember as assistant chief where I was sitting, I looked around the room at the veterans in our room, thinking those guys are all right. I couldn't even say the letters in the right order. I had no idea what PTSD is, other than in my mind, it was people that went and shot people and then killed themselves. That's what I thought PTSD. That's all the news ever said. Right. We didn't have any training, and there I'm sitting as an assistant chief trying to diagnose these other people when I was high on meth and I had every single symptom. And that's what I found out when I started looking at the Mayo site. There's the signs and symptoms. Holy crap. It made all the sense in the world.
I think it's important if you tell the listeners what happened when you went to the range with that gun with those bullets.
Yeah, that was later on. That was about a month later. About a month later or more. That gun works fine. All them rounds went off. Some of the firefighters shot the gun. My son shot the gun. And we shot those 6 rounds. And, it got my attention. God got my attention that day. Yeah. And he knew what tool to use. And I hate saying that because I don't want anybody else to think that they can get away with it, that God will stop it, because, man, that's not the way to reach out for help. That's what I'm trying to tell people. Before it gets to that point and everything's spiraling out of control, reach out and get some help, because, man, the rest of this is amazing what happened.
Yeah. So if you would talk a little bit about you reaching out for help at that stage, how was that process for you? Was it easy? It takes courage to do it. There's no doubt, but it sounds like you were in a place. Did you make a phone call?
Yeah. The thing is, I didn't want to die back then. I just couldn't continue on going, not understanding what was going on in my life. And that hurt. It's like, who am I? And why am I this monster? Why am I hurting everybody? And I got to destroy this monster. But then when I looked at all that stuff and I found out there's therapies, and I studied PTSD, and the next morning after studying PTSD all night, I went over to my ex-girlfriend's place, and I barged through when she opened the door a little bit, I barged in, I started screaming, I got PTSD, I found it. I found out what's going on in my life, and I'm not a monster, and I can get all this help. And she was protecting my 2 sons from me, and my 2 sons were scared to death of me. They thought I was there to physically hurt them or maybe kill them. And I'll never forget that look on their face, but I left there, and I thought to myself, they're never going to trust me ever again. They don't know what PTSD is. And the gun was still laying there when I got to the office, and I thought about picking it up and just squeezing the trigger till it went off. But instead, I sat down and I pulled out my list of phone numbers that I gathered, and I never had the strength to call them. I didn't know, what they were going to do, what they were about. But in July of 2014, I called the suicide hotline 12 times and nobody answered. I called 3 other phone numbers I received from a chief. And 5 years after that, I finally got to the point where I was calling them, and they were all disconnected, no longer in service. And then I called a friend of mine. This one wasn't on my list, but it was a police officer. And I called him and I said, hey, man, I got PTSD. I got all the symptoms, and I tried to kill myself. And he said, Scott, we're going to come pick you up, and we're going to take you to the hospital. And that's protocol. Mm-hmm. But at that time, I just wanted somebody to listen. And I even told him, I said, can you go over and talk to my ex-girlfriend and tell her what PTSD is, and tell her that I can get help, and tell her, people can recover from this. Mm-hmm. And he came back with, Scott, we're going to come pick you up and we're going to take you to the hospital. And it's like, man, I thought we were friends. That's all I was going through in my mind. It's like, can you just come and talk? I mean, please take the badge off and let's be human here. But I get it. That's, that's what they're trained to do, especially back then. Mm-hmm. Right. But yeah, I talked him out of it. I said, I got 2 more numbers and if they don't answer, then he can come pick me up. I made a deal with him and I lied to him because I was not going to call him back. But the next number was our EAP, which I didn't even know what it was. And I was assistant chief, but it was a blue phone, a phone number in the corner of the whiteboard in our meeting room. And I called it. And the lady answered, and I told her I tried to kill myself. I said, I'm pretty sure I got PTSD. And she helped me set up an appointment for a week and a half out after I just told her I tried to kill myself. I made the appointment, and I remember looking at the monitor and looking at the cameras outside and the sky, and the blue sky, and I was also looking at the food plot that I had for my deer. And all I could think of was, man, I'm not going to see my deer. I'm going to be dead. I've got one last phone call, and I'm going to be dead because they're not going to answer. My luck wasn't that good that day. And I called that phone number, and it was a national hotline for first responders. And they answered after 2 rings, and I started screaming. I said, I'm going to kill myself. Nobody gives a shit about me. Nobody gets this. And I told him, what was going on. And it's like I took a breath and paused for a little bit. And he said, Scott, we've got you. We're going to get through this together. And it was just like he reached through the phone and picked me up and held me. Mm-hmm. He understood it because he knew what PTSD was. He knew what addiction was. And he was a firefighter from a large department out on the East Coast. He stopped everything, and I was priority. That felt good. Somebody that knew what they were talking about, understood what I was going through, and they were listening. And he got me off the cliff and helped me get back down to where I could think a lot better. And he talked about EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. Mm-hmm. He found a phone number for me for a therapist in Fargo, and I called it. He wouldn't call it for me. Mm-hmm. So I had to call it, and I called it, and amazingly, I got the very next appointment in the morning at 8 o'clock in the morning to do some EMDR to start the process. And I started feeling like I had hope. I mean, he explained PTSD and EMDR, and he explained all this stuff and how it helped other people. And I'm like, I got hope now. I've got a way out, and he was going to be there for me. And he gave me a phone number for a police chief in Chicago and a fire chief in New York. And it was like, these guys are old school, and they would stop everything just to talk with me and listen. And that's what I needed, is just somebody to fill in the blanks for me, because I was lost.
I think that's important what you said. Just somebody to listen, right? We get so busy in our lives and in the things that are going that we miss. I mean, like, you were screaming it through the rooftops and nobody was listening. I mean, nowadays, with September being Suicide Awareness Month, we need to stop and we need to listen to these signs, no matter how small or how large. Like you said, I just wanted someone to talk to me, and sometimes too, like with the first responders, like, they're trying to protect their own emotions too. So they don't want to get too involved in it. 'Cause like, what happens if he can't talk you off that ledge, then he's going through what you're going through. So it's a vicious cycle and a terrible circle. And I think, if that hotline still exists, we should post that on our Facebook for sure. I think it would be really beneficial for anybody else that is in that world to have that lifeline. And it's amazing that you have that. And do you think right now that any of the fire departments or, police, do they have that number readily available to them? Do they? Of course you can look it up on the internet, but it's not like when you're in that mental state, you're not thinking about that. Like, I should just Google this. Do they have them posted in the departments?
Actually, the one I called, I wouldn't recommend anymore because it's changed.
Okay.
It used to be answered by first responders. Now it's not.
Oh, sure.
But there's other ones that have started up, like Safe Call Now. Mm-hmm. There's a cop hotline to it, but there's several of them out there that are really good. And that's the thing, is I continually call them and check them.
Oh, sure.
Because I don't want to be handing out a phone number that's not going to be answered.
Right.
And if they're not answered in person, I'm not handing them out, because I don't like the automated ones. I don't like the ones where you have to leave a message. I want them answered in person because I know how important that was. If that would have been a recording, I would have been dead.
I mean, I hate waiting on the phone just for like anything, just calling someone and not getting a person. I couldn't even imagine that it's a mental health hotline and they would have an answering machine. Like that would piss me off.
Be surprised.
Yep.
Be very
Unbelievable.
surprised. I will say the Veterans Crisis Line. I'm an advocate for that. Never called it, but there's a great documentary. I think it's on Prime about that, and it's 24 hours a day, and you get a human being.
Awesome.
Yeah, 24/7. A lot of Christmas calls, a lot of calls around the holidays. Someone who's alone. I give them a lot of credit. It's a tough job. Don't know what the turnover is. I'm sure it's large, but good souls that man those phones and will man those phones for sure. What I love about Scott's story is the evolution from here. I heard he tried to jump a picnic table one time too, and it didn't work out so well. But I've get to meet his wife. His wife's amazing, and they got a 4-legged friend too, Sarge. He's pretty cool too. But one of the things that you were alluding to is a phone number. And I remember, Scott, from your presentation, you ended up back in front of that fire department kind of talking about this, didn't you? What was the response?
With my department?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't shut up about it. I was not going to be silent because I found out that more first responders end their life by suicide than line of duty death. And when I found that out, and that I was not the only one, and that I could get some help, I was telling everybody, my neighbors, but most of all, I went and told the fire department, and I had to take a leave of absence because I had to get my head screwed on straight again. And I told them I had a suicide attempt. I told them I've got PTSD. I did not tell them about the meth. I was still doing meth, but I remember the tears hitting the agenda from the firefighter that was next to me when I was talking. And it got deathly quiet in there because I'm not the only one that was on those calls. Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, it affects people different, but you can't. I mean, we didn't do any debriefings after these calls. I mean, we didn't talk about them. We definitely didn't talk about our feelings.
No.
And we'd go down to the VFW and the liquor store, and we had our own table. It seemed like, and nobody really messed with us, and so that was the closest we probably had to debriefing. And in the annual meeting, we'd have some steaks and sit around and start chatting. And that was interesting because the annual meeting, I was at a bad call, and this car was just destroyed, and there was 2 girls in it, and one passed away. And I was in the first truck in, and one of the older firefighters came around the front of the vehicle it hit. And I remember saying, "Oh, thank God." And I'm looking like, what is there to be thanking God about this? And I was so frustrated. It's like, how cold could you be? A couple years later, at the annual meeting, he shared that his 2 daughters were driving down that road that night. Now, if we would have had a debriefing, I would have known that. Right. I mean, I judged that guy. I'm like, this guy is cold, man. Right. But the debriefings, it opens up so much. And I know that would have probably came out, and we would have understood that. In fact, it probably would have hit me hard enough to make me sit up and say, hey, this could happen to me someday. My kids could be driving down the road, and, what if I'm called to call like that? And I couldn't imagine what was going through his head.
Well, in a small community, the chances are definitely not zero.
Yeah.
Or like you were saying earlier, one of their friends that maybe spent a lot of time at your house. I think about that when we have done like active shooter training and things like that. I'm like, man, if I have to go into this school, I know every one of these kids. I used to coach there. And I mean, I'd like to think I'd be able to do my job, but I'm going to know these faces. And it's not something that you can really prepare for. It's not. And the hard part is one of the hard parts, I guess, is the aftermath. It's like, and if there's nothing there to deal with it, you try and find something, whether it be, alcohol, narcotics, bad habit, anything. You're not alone, is what I'm saying. Yeah. You're not alone. And I think a lot of people need to hear that. You are not alone. These images you have in your head, these nightmares, you're 100% not alone.
Yeah. And you bottle it up, and it just eats you from the inside out.
Absolutely.
And it was like an infection, and you get a cut on your arm and it gets red and turns into an infection. You don't just sit there and expect it to go away. You go get some penicillin or some antibiotics, and with the mental health thing, it's the same thing. I mean, if we would have had those debriefings, it would have prevented, from what I call the infection from happening. But once it took hold, I mean, it was not going to go away by itself. I had to get some help.
Right.
And it also with the debriefings, like you're talking about, like the last, people that we've had on here that had addiction problems or PTSD, they talk a lot about when you have other people that are suffering the same way that you are, and you can just talk about it together. It brings a sense of community, and it's a safe place, and I think there just needs to be more of that in all walks of life. Find your people and find your community, and to be able to safely talk about it and not feel like you're being judged, or, I don't know if there's some kind of, with the police community, if there's a certain masculinity that you have to have, so like you said, feelings weren't talked about, but no matter what, after a horrific situation like that, I feel like people would be a little bit more keen to wanting to talk afterwards, after that initial like awful silence is gone, then getting together, like probably why the bar felt safe for you is you went there and you could talk to people. It may not have been about the situation, but you were able to have a sense of community.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And the thing is it's, with the administration too, I mean, if you're going to be up for a promotion, all of a sudden you're reaching out for help for mental health. Unfortunately, too many times that takes you right off the list because they go, oh, man, he's not strong enough, which it should be looked at the other way.
Absolutely.
The other way.
There's walking time bombs out there that are, they need some help, but they're not going to reach out. And it's just, it's a disaster waiting to happen.
Oh, you're right. And then they do get the promotion, and then it just, the shit rolls downhill.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and it never gets addressed. And that happens in every first responder community and probably in the private sector and everywhere else. Mm-hmm. And that's an unfortunate thing. And that's what I think we've committed to try and stop.
Yeah. Not
just people getting hired and promoted, but stopping a cycle of this, making it not just aware, taking some action in it. And I will say, I think it's better. It's not ever going to be perfect, but there's definitely debriefings now at a lot of places, not all, but for some of the tragedies that have happened here, I know that they've taken the mental health of the first responders, fire, law enforcement very seriously, as they should. Mm-hmm. And it will affect them. And I know this because I got phone calls right afterwards because I knew these. I call them kids because I'm getting older now, but they look like children to me. I mean, I coached one of them, and I remember when he got his glove and it was way too big for his hand, and that's what I see and that's what I saw. And then he's dealing with this situation. And I guess the way I look at it is I call it a superpower. It's an intuitive thing. When you go through a treatment process after this, I have this uncanny ability to look at someone's eyes and see a light or not. And I can sit there and pick them out. And Scott's shaking his head, yes. I mean, I always say I can sit in the lobby of the VA. And I'm like, oh, there, that young soldier there, or this officer, that light is pretty dim, if not gone. Got to get that light back.
Yeah. And that's like when I went through this, it was something deeper than me. I just had this drive all of a sudden that I didn't want anybody else to go to where I was and hurt their kids and lose so much of their life in such anger and all this stuff. And so, I mean, I was very verbal about it. And the newspapers, TV crews came out and they did interviews on me. And even the Associated Press did an article on me, and it went around the country, around the world, actually. And I was just open and honest about this stuff. And when I came out of this after doing my EMDR, I was the strongest I've ever been in my life. Not physically, but mentally. I could handle so much more now. I mean, still today, I can process the stuff that would have stuck to me before. But I got everything out of me, and as much as I could, and I still debrief, and I still, process things as they come on, because I don't want the stuff sticking to me. I got a clean slate, and I'm going to keep it that way. Mm-hmm. But it's just a way of thinking now that I have that's way more positive than it was before. And to be able to hear other people's stories and to have people call and, screaming that they're going to end their life and stuff like that, I used to walk away, say, man, I don't know how I'm handling this, but I'm not alone. I'll never be alone ever again.
No.
And I'm not running from that anymore. And I basically I recovered out loud. People seen it, and they seen, it was the real Scott. He's back. The smile's back, and the color in his eyes are back. He looks like he's younger. He's gained a whole lot of weight because he's eating.
But he's probably sleeping a little bit now too.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't all stressed out and an angry person, and people actually wanted to walk next to me because they weren't walking on eggshells anymore.
Right.
Yep.
And like you said earlier, my kids, I mean, they kept their distance for a while because how many times did I tell them I'm going to change? I'll change. And all of a sudden they were actually seeing it, and they were teenagers, so I mean, it was a difficult time of their life anyways, but then to have to go through and watch me go through this and in the recover, I mean, I know the doubts were there, but eventually they came around, and now we're so close. And that was 11 years ago, but I talked to both of them today. I talk to them all the time now. It's wow.
You got your life back.
Yeah. And yeah, the relationships, my gosh, Michelle and I, my fiance, we're so close, and we talk, we communicate, we call each other out on stuff. If something's happening, she knows when I'm overloaded, and she'll tell me, time to check out your safety plan.
Yep.
But like you were referring to earlier, Dan, after my 6 sessions, I was out in the car in my driveway with my 2 sons in the car, and I looked at the picnic table, and this is how good I felt. I mean, I felt like I was 18 years old, felt like I lost 100 pounds. I was actually 46 years old, and I told my sons, I said, you got to watch this. 18 years old, I used to jump over picnic tables in the city park in Detroit Lakes in my cowboy boots. So I took a run at the picnic table.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I tried to jump it. Didn't go too good. Man, I came down pretty hard. I walked away, and I'm looking around, and all the neighbors are out in the yard doing lawn work in August. And I'm like,
Of course they were.
I mean, I told them all, I was very open about it. I said, yeah, man, I got PTSD, and I'm getting some help now, and I had a suicide attempt, and you guys taking care of yourself. And I was cooking food for people too, man, because I loved food. But I know they were probably looking at me. It's like, man, I wonder what kind of drugs he's on. What did the doctor give him? It's
I want some of those.
Sign me up.
yeah.
So the name of your presentation that you give all over the United States is called Seeing in Color Again. When did you feel that you started seeing in color again?
After my first EMDR therapy.
Okay.
I didn't even know I was going to start talking about these car accidents and the fatalities, and it just came out, and they couldn't stop me. I mean, I was not going to stop them. It's like, if you've ever seen the movie The Green Mile, where the guy's got the bugs coming out of his mouth,
Yeah.
that's what it was. The darkness was coming out, the infection was coming out, and he wasn't slowing me down none, because once it opened up, I let it out. And on the way home from Fargo to Frazee by Glendon, it was August 5th of 2014. There was a sunflower field, and I couldn't believe it, because I just drove past that a couple hours ago, and I swear it wasn't there. And I had to walk out in the sunflower field, and it's like, wow, everything was like neon. It was so bright. The colors were so bright, and I escaped the darkness. I mean, the cold was gone. I could feel the wind hitting my face. I could hear the birds singing, the blue sky. I mean, I was picking up everything around me. And then on the way home from there, I'm looking around. I was like, when did they build all these houses? I mean, I took so many trips to Fargo, but I had the blinders on. I mean, I just looked straight ahead, and I didn't look at the world around me. And all of a sudden, I'm taking everything in. It was like a kid in a candy store. But it was just, wow.
The simple things in life.
I mean,
Life going on around you. Living organisms, progress, building homes. It's like, this is great, man.
Yeah.
This is great. And it's like it becomes almost like a gift.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, what a gift. Look at these sunflowers. My house is surrounded by sunflowers right now. And
I just said that the other day. Did
Yeah,
I
you
not?
did.
When did you get sunflowers?
well, they're not
I was
mine,
like,
but
I have drove out there so many times. I've never even seen anything growing around. And then like 2 weeks later, I come by and I'm like, where did all these sunflowers come from?
like 8 feet tall. They're
I
huge.
hadn't seen them. But it is important what you said. I think too many people get through the ways of life, and they're living in their hell. They just keep playing it, like you said, in the gray area, in the darkness. I mean, I can remember a time when I had finally kind of come out of some stuff too, and I just sat there in my car, and I rolled the window down, and I just let the sun in, And I just sat there with the sun. I mean, it wasn't setting. It wasn't doing anything pretty. I mean, it was an ugly Fargo, probably smoke filled, from Canada.
Thank you, Canada.
Yeah, thanks, Canada. But I remember just sitting there and like closing my eyes and just breathing for like 5 minutes and thinking, why would I want to leave this? Why would I want to go anywhere else and not be able to experience like the beauty that is out there? Because when you're always just so focused on your hell, you forget that there are other things like that. And then when you start to see that, it's a mindset change. You're starting to focus on the positive rather than the negative. So the color versus the darkness, how you describe it, which is beautiful.
I love that. I absolutely love that, seeing in color again, because I can totally relate. And a world of black and white it's a hellish world. It's for the longest time, when they played black and white films, I thought the world was black and white. And then all of a sudden it just turned to color one day. Did you know that? That's weird.
Oh, really?
I was isolated. Never mind. Completely off
It's like
topic.
Pleasantville. Like,
I know. It's like, when did everything get color? I didn't know. I was young. It wasn't like yesterday or anything.
I'm probably the only weird person who finds beauty in darkness, but not in the sense of like bad trauma, but in like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, they want like the bright lights and all the things, like, but I fell in love with Halloween because of,
You did?
Yeah.
That surprises
Oh,
me.
stop. Like I have it all around me because it reminds me. Like when I go for my runs, I run through the cemetery because I think it's beautiful. These people had lives. They have people that, there are people that remember them every single day. They had like this whole, I like to read the tombstones and, just remember them, and there were forgotten tombstones, maybe family that isn't there anymore. I mean, it's still maintained, but these were all people with lives, and it reminds you to live your life and to do it to the fullest because you don't get to have this life very long.
Yep, no doubt. Yeah, and that's, you touched on something there. Before the therapy, it was like my head was so full of negative stuff. And once I started releasing it, it made room for good stuff to come back in. Mm-hmm. And I decided I wasn't going to let any more negativity in. And if it was coming in, I was going to process it immediately. Mm-hmm. If I had that heavy feeling in my chest, okay, I got to take care of this right now. Otherwise, if I let it go for too long, I'm going to get used to that feeling, and then it's going to keep building and building and building. It's like, I'm not letting this, I'm not going to do this again.
Mm-hmm.
No, you got to fight it. I mean, you do. And I think a lot of people say there are good days and bad days, and you're going to have them. That's no BS. There's good days and bad days. But negativity is an easy place to live because you can always expect the worst. You don't have any surprises. You just expect the worst every single day of your life. Mm-hmm. And if something good's going to happen, well, I'm going to get punished for that tenfold. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yep.
And it's a delusion. It's easy to believe, and sometimes that does happen, but it's not a punishment. It's life. And you've looked past the sunflowers. You've looked past the beauty. You've completely ignored it because it's just so easy and you get so comfortable in this negative way, but it's also incredibly exhausting. Mm-hmm. And you can only tread in that life for so long. So to find beauty in darkness is a gift.
Maybe. I've just learned to look at it that way.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, I've always found, I've always had a fascination with that side of life. That's the side of death, and what's more beautiful, being able to surround yourself with, life all day long and try to live your life to the fullest. That's probably why I do too many things, because I'm trying to fit it all in, and I think, should I slow down a little bit and maybe live my life? Yeah, I think so. But, it comes and goes. And I think a lot of us, like I said, just need to slow down and just learn to live life and to enjoy it while we're here. I posted on the Facebook one day and I said, try going through one day without any negativity and just see what happens.
Gross.
Right?
Hard.
It is hard. It is harder than you think. Like people are like, oh, yeah, like I got this. I mean, like just driving to work, I'm swearing at people.
Right.
I mean,
That's the first
have
thing
you
that came
been
to
to
my
our
mind.
interstate lately? Like nobody knows how to drive.
Another pothole. Another pothole.
I mean, so it is incredibly difficult to be a super positive person, but then also remembering like nobody wants to be around a negative Nelly, you know, like that's,
Except other negative Nellies. And then it's a
Right.
competition of who's the most negative that day.
oh, the one-uppers?
Yeah, the
Oh,
one-uppers.
God. Ugh.
I will tell you, have you allowed yourself to be happy now?
Oh yeah.
Isn't that a journey?
It's amazing the energy you give off is what you attract.
Yeah, what you get. Yeah, what you get.
I never thought, I mean, especially when you're walking Sarge down a beach, you know, when he was a puppy, I mean, he was a goofy looking puppy, great big ears and long legs,
The
but
German Shepherd is what
yeah, well,
mostly.
part
Yeah.
mule deer.
Yeah.
But you know, when you're walking down a beach and you know, I must have had a smile planted on my face all the time after I got out of this, because people just came up and talked to me
Sure.
and they just shared so much with me. They wanted to talk with me. They wanted to pet Sarge. They just wanted to hang out, and I never had that before.
Nobody pet you though.
No,
Okay.
they don't even know my name. I mean, people yell
I
while
get
they're
it.
driving by, "Hey, Sarge!"
I get it. So that's interesting that they do that, and people naturally are probably drawn to you now. You're like a light in the darkness. How do you take care of that for yourself? With if you have so many people coming up to you with like, "Hey, this is going on, that's going on." What do you do now that you've come through this whole process for your mental health to maintain, so you can continue to help people with your story of victory and triumph?
I've got a safety plan, and I've got a support group, and it's not a group; it's just people I know.
Right.
You're on that list, Dan. I mean, if I ever get to that place where, you know, just I need to talk to somebody, you're somebody I feel good talking to.
Awesome. I love to hear that.
And it's a 10-minute conversation, and it turns the whole day around.
Sure
and
does.
why do I want to bottle that up and feel like that when I could make a 10-minute phone call and it's all better?
Right.
And I got my faith.
There you go.
You know, and I understand how my body works too. So when I'm feeling certain ways, I get on top of it right away and I process it. Or I'm not afraid to say, I sit there and talk to myself about the phone call or whatever I took. Did I do everything I could? And if not, I'm going to call somebody and have them run it by them. I don't have to give them the details. It's just, you know, because everything, when people call, it's confidential. I will not ever
Right.
give that out. And on top of this all, I think God blessed me with a bad memory too.
Yeah, I understand that. That was a wink. He said, I have a terrible memory, wink, wink. So,
Yeah.
but I get what you're saying, and I think it's important because sometimes a 10-minute phone call is all it does take. It doesn't take an ambulance ride. It doesn't take things like that. I would also like to say Scott's one of the most unique individuals about resilience, because the meth thing, it just ended.
Yeah. That once I understood and took on my demons, faced them head on, that same day, August 5th, was when I walked away from meth all by myself. I could start to close my eyes and not seeing my kids die, and I could start to sleep a little bit. And I had to send a letter to each one of my sons and say, hey, you can't come by this week because I'm going to be going through some bad stuff, because I didn't tell them about the meth. Nobody knew about the meth other than my dealer.
Sure.
And I just said, you guys have to stay away because I've got to deal with some stuff this next week. And I knew I was going to go through mood swings and things, and it was bad. It was ugly. But at the same time, it was also because I was starting to, again, talk to myself and walk myself through these car accidents and through these fatalities. And it's like, what could have I done different? I mean, how dare do I think I'm God where I can change the outcome of something? Mm-hmm. I can only do so much. And it was like a switch. It just, okay, I'm okay with what I did there and what the fire department did. We did everything we could. We didn't screw up. And all of a sudden, the crosses went from being failures to memorials again.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at that. Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful way to look at that. And yeah, unfortunate circumstances, but oftentimes you don't even have to be a first responder to be put in a situation where you're not going to win. All you can do is your best. And one of the statistics I saw, just about 3 hours ago was first responders, all first responders. And you know who I group into first responders, even emergency room nurses, paramedics, anybody who's dealing with things that we try and protect the general public and kids from, and the elderly, are 4 times more likely to have these suicidal ideations or attempts. 4 times. And you know what? The resources have to be there. No recordings. Human to human interaction is essential. You have to have a human being to talk to.
Yep. Somebody that a peer. I mean, a peer also. Somebody that gets it. I mean, it's kind of difficult when you're calling a generalized, suicide hotline, because they don't know who's all calling, and you can't have a staff of one of everything.
Right.
But at least have access to hand them off to somebody that gets it. I think that's huge. And, I've been very fortunate that I've actually had some people hand it off to me. So I've had some psychiatrists and some psychologists hand people off to me and check with me if I could come in and talk with them. And basically, it's almost like I get it. It's scary to go through this stuff. And how do you trust somebody that doesn't understand what you're going through? And I just kind of come in and make it okay for them. Hey, this is somebody you can trust. I trust them, and it opens up the door to where they can actually talk to the person and let things go.
Well, one of the beautiful things is I appreciate you coming to downtown Fargo, even though we cut our little set about 5 minutes short before you got there. There was a person that was there, and in the book I wrote, she's the only one that called after one of my incidents. And she comes every year, and she's still paramedic. And I love that woman to death. If you're listening, Don, love you, girl. Anyway, it's just a bond we've had, and I could bounce anything like that off of her. I mean, we were a very close-knit group we excluded the firemen. No, we did not. We were close with the firemen too, and we were one team. And with the emergency room staff, we saw them every night. It's almost the same people every single night. It's like, hey, how you doing? 4 or 5 times, 6 times a night. And that was our crew. And we had our, what we called it church, because we all worked nights. It's not a plug for Chubbs, but that's where we held our church.
Sure.
In the morning. And that was our debrief too. And was it the right one? No, but it was something.
Yeah.
It was something.
It's peer support.
Yeah. Yeah. And peer support is important. It was this weak link for a long time, and it wasn't because of the people that were doing it. It was just because of the evolution, I think. When we had a peer supporter at the police department with little to no training, one person for 108 sworn, it's not enough. You need a team, and especially if you're doing a debrief. You need a mental health professional. You need someone who knows what they're doing. The mental health professional needs to run it, and your peers need to be there to sit right beside you and say, I got you. I got you. Yep. Just like they did for you. I got you.
Where do you think you start to get something like that implemented?
From the ground up. From the ground up. You find a department that's got one, that's had one, or an organization that's had one, and see how it's modeled, and you try and create it, or you ask to borrow theirs. They will come. They will come. There's chaplains. There's different things now that really didn't exist, and if they did, nobody knew about them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the North Dakota SISM team now.
Are you? Good.
I'm Northeast Regional Coordinator. Any first responders out there in North Dakota, they can call up and request from the state, and we'll be there. Either if it's a defusing, debriefing, a major incident, or just a small one, doesn't matter. We'll do one-on-ones. We'll be there.
Do you think the departments are sensitive to that now, where they would, put that out there to be more prominent?
I can't speak for them. I can only say what I've seen, and what I've seen is it's better. It's better. I think it's serious. I mean, losing 4 people to their own hand, 4 good friends of mine, it's the reality. And it's no longer just an acronym, and it needs to be dealt with and taken very seriously. And I think that they do see that, and they need to give people the time. They need to give them time to process things. Don't sit there and shove a microphone in their face right away, because they're not going to remember. I still don't remember certain things. I mean, it was a year and a half ago that my brother said to me at my niece's graduation, "Hey, you remember when you came out to my place after A, B, C, and D?" And I'm like, "No, I don't remember that." And then he started describing what he was doing. I'm like, "I do remember that." Yeah. It's amazing. And therapy, you start remembering these erroneous details because your mind, my mind anyway, will formulate things that might not even really have happened. And especially if you're in a negative way, it's like, "Oh, I did this." And it's like, "No, you never did that." Or "This was what was going on." Nah, that's not really what was going on. And you start to remember. And it's really cool. It's like this little switch goes on and like a dimmer, and then it gets brighter and brighter. So that's the way it was for me. I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I can attest when he said start seeing in color again. I'm like, man, I can totally relate to that. And I did feel lighter. I was like pushing 275 or something at the time, but I felt like I was 18. I was going to jump no picnic table or nothing like that.
Maybe start smaller.
Yeah, smaller, like the little kid picnic table. I wouldn't have cleared that one either. For sure. Man, Scott, you have a website or anything like that you like to throw out there?
Yes, it's seeingincoloragain.com.
Seeingincoloragain.com. I tell you what, I'm assuming I haven't been on it in a while. I have a couple times. There's a booking thing on there. Is that correct? Or
there's a link to get a hold of me.
Okay.
You can set it up. It depends on the event, where it is,
Sure.
The prices, everything kind of vary on the event.
Sure.
So.
As they should.
And it doesn't matter. I mean, I was in Thief River Falls on Tuesday speaking with their students, and then an evening we did one for the community. And a lot of times I'll do one for the first responders, then go to the school, and then one for the community, or however we can book it. But I think it's important to get into the schools. And I never thought I'd be speaking in a school about this. But these students they're different than when I was going to school.
Yeah, they are.
They see so much more than I ever did. And with the social media and all that stuff, they can really relate to what I'm saying. And that's some of the best compliments I ever had is thank you for treating us like we're adults.
Right.
And
you know what? Some of these kids probably see it in a parent.
Oh, yeah.
And it might explain to them what exactly is going on. And you know what? We did it wrong. We're trying to do it right now. This next generation's got to do better than we did.
Yeah.
And thank goodness you're going into the schools like that. That's very important.
Yeah, I even had down in South Dakota, it was a few years ago, but after I spoke, I had a student walk up and ask me, and he said, "My dad's just like you explained." And we talked for a while, and that evening I got a phone call from his dad, and he wasn't happy with me. He said, my son walked up to me and said, "Dad, I love you. I need you in my life." We had this speaker today that talked about first responders, and he said he tried to kill himself. And he said, "Are you thinking about suicide?" And he had a plan for a week out.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, his son saved his life.
Son saved his life, and so did you.
Talk about lining up the stars. I mean,
yeah.
And it happens quite a bit. When I walk, I feel like I'm in the right place at the right time all the time now.
Well, you probably are. And it's probably not something you can control. So it is what it is. That's why we always want to make sure we're taking care of ourselves, too, because it can be a lot.
Exactly.
And I get a lot of people pissed off at me because I'm not that blunt. I'm fairly passive, but I do draw a line, and I like to hold people accountable because I had to be held accountable, and I am to this day. And it pisses them off. And you know what? You can be pissed off. You'll get over it. Yeah. You're fine. You'll be just fine. But when I make a commitment to someone, I stick with it. And if it doesn't align with what they're doing or their behavior, guess what? I call it out. And that's what I needed. I needed people to call me out. Abby calls me out. It's like, you're dumb. Why are these cords all tangled?
Don't do that.
Yeah, self-care is important too. Keeping yourself in check. And my self-care is grocery shopping and cooking.
Oh, yeah.
And today I cooked, oh my gosh, potato salad, beans, about a gallon of each.
Wow.
I got some steelhead trout marinating and some salmon marinating, some beans, big deal of cowboy beans.
Wow.
And I cut a bunch of pineapples up. Yeah. And I don't know who's all going to eat it.
Told you we should have went to his house instead of here.
Well, I'm just wondering why he didn't bring it.
I didn't want to bring the cowboy beans for an obvious reason.
Oh, right.
Well, we'd have to add it out.
Yeah, there'd be the beat button. It would just be worn out on this thing. Man, Scott, if you could, I put you on the spot on this one. Don't get nervous. If you could give one or two pieces of advice to anyone listening out there that might be on the fence about, I don't know, I'm not quite sure, what would that be?
It's not going to fix itself, and you can't do it alone. You've got to reach out and let somebody in your life and let them help you. Therapy was by far the best thing I ever did in my life. And back then, I qualified for insurance. I didn't know it at the time. I spent $1,000 out of my own pocket. That was the best $1,000 I ever spent in my life. I got my life back. I would have missed out on 11 years of doing what I'm doing now and helping people. And that's why I got into the first responder in the first place, is to help people.
Right.
And it's like now, I used to cut people out of cars with the jaws of life. And after one of my presentations, somebody walked up to me and says, "You realize you're saving lives with the jaws of life right now with your mouth, with your jaws." And it's like, that was heavy.
Yeah.
I met a guy the other day that somebody that's really important in my life now, just found out. And he looked at me and he said, "Man, I'm really glad you didn't end your life, because I would have never met you." And just things like that. The chain reaction it would have had, because the lives I've touched since then, with what I've learned from what I went through, and I'm passing it on. And September's Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. The beginning of this month, I set a goal for myself to call somebody every day or send a message, just checking in on them, above and beyond all the follow-up stuff I do. I'm over 100 now,
Wow.
Extra ones. And the thing is all of them have called me back except for one, or text me back. And not only did they say they're good or they're not good or whatever, but Scott, how you doing?
Yeah.
It's like, that feels good,
Yeah.
and then they share with the people that they've helped now. It's just a domino effect, and it's just spreading.
So much credit to you, because you chose this path instead of the other path, because you could have kept all this and said, "Okay, I'm feeling better. Now I'm just going to go do Scott things." Well, you did do Scott things, and these are your Scott things, and it is making a difference. Very proud of you.
I've got to give a lot of credit to God, because this is not who I used to be. I could never stand in front of people and speak, and now I stand in front of 1,000 people and speak, and I never get nervous. It's the weirdest thing. I get up there and start talking, and an hour and a half goes by, and it feels like 5 minutes.
Isn't that crazy?
Man, I love
Then
what
you
I'm doing.
Then you are where you're supposed to be. That was hard to say. You are where you're supposed to be.
It's true.
It's true. Awesome. Well, that wasn't so bad, was it, Scott?
No.
Yeah, it's awesome. So glad you took the time with us today. It whipped by.
It did. It goes by quick.
It does go by quick. I love these meaningful conversations. I love stories of triumph. Scott is a story of triumph, and he's taken that triumph to show other people how to live their life in triumph from horrible, horrible circumstances. So thank you for what you do. Scott's got his website out there. We'll put that on our thing. Is that right, IT department?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. And if you want to book Scott or talk to Scott, that is probably the best way to get a hold of him to start anyway. And you can go from there.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening. Thank you, Scott, for taking your time, buddy.
Thank you.
All right. See y'all. You've been listening to the Kiss My Chaos podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we speak with some of the most intriguing people about their journey from trauma to triumph. If you find yourself in mental crisis, please seek professional medical help immediately.